I'm going to pass it over to Paige Humble, our executive director, to give some welcoming remarks. So Paige, kicking it off to you.
Thank you so much. I gotta say, my spirits are lifting when I'm seeing everybody's names and faces, people that I haven't seen in a long time. This is just so exciting. So I'm so glad that all of you are here. And while I'm pulling up my slides, I want to say a huge thank you to Jenny and Colleen, whose leadership really made today and tomorrow possible. So thank you to you both, because I know you've worked very hard to pull this program together. And I am just excited to be able to kind of let you all know what to expect today and then share a little bit about Lung Cancer Initiative. And first off, I also want to thank our sponsors, because today and tomorrow would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, Bristol Myers Squibb, Genentech, and Merck. So thank you to all of you. Our mission at Lung Cancer Initiative is to advance survivorship and provide support to those affected by lung cancer through research, education, and access programs. And we really specialize in connecting patients and their loved ones with the medical and research community. And how do we do that? We really focus in several key areas. So we have research programs. We fund research fellows at the 5 major medical institutions across the state. And then we also have other research grant programs in innovation and career development. In addition, programs like today, our education programs, we also partner with experts and health centers across the state to deliver community education. And largely, of course, that's been virtual over the past year, but we hope to be able to come back into some of your communities very soon and deliver that education as well. As far as awareness events, we have a number of ways to get involved to raise awareness in your own communities. I'll talk about Lunge Forward in a little bit and our Evening of Hope Gala. We have golf tournaments, but we also love to come out to health fairs, and we cannot wait till we can get back to health fairs in our local communities. And then we also continue to evolve our survivor support programs. We're continuing to expand those, and our patient support programs like our gas card program and our patient emergency fund, which I'll update you all on in just a moment. We also have a wellness retreat. We have our online survivors luncheons and a host of other ways that we like to connect survivors across the state and beyond. And of course, this is why we're here. These are the faces of lung cancer. Some of you are on our call today, but we are really here to support the more than 8,000 North Carolinians who are diagnosed with lung cancer each year. And many of these faces right here are some of the advocates that help us carry out our mission across North Carolina and beyond. And there is hope. We've seen research bring about improvements in screening and treatments and other diseases. And we've even seen great advancements in lung cancer. And I know Dr. Garst and Dr. Lee will talk about some of those later through our summit. But we need to keep raising awareness, and we need to continue to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. And that is what today and tomorrow are all about. And we're just thrilled that you're here to help unite in this effort. And so before I go any further, I wanted to go ahead and give a few updates from LCI just to make it you all aware, to mark your calendars. First off, I mentioned the Patient Emergency Fund. We launched this last year in response to COVID for patients that have been negatively impacted financially by COVID. But we recognize that a cancer diagnosis always has a negative financial impact. So we are launching this Patient Emergency Fund again this year to help patients in accessing basic needs. And we plan to launch that on May 31st. There'll be more information on our website, but certainly if you have questions before then, please don't hesitate to reach out to Colleen, and we'll provide all of our contact information so that you'll have that. But we're excited to be able to share that we're going to do that again this year. In addition, I mentioned the wellness retreat, and we will be offering that again this year, and you'll be hearing more about that during our summit, but it's going to be a hybrid event. So we are going to have an optional in-person component to the retreat. We are so excited about that. And then the retreat itself will be virtual, but as I understand it, registration opened today. So you can go ahead and go to Wind River's website and register for that. And again, you'll be hearing a little bit more about that in the summit. Also, we love to laugh at Lung Cancer Initiative. So we decided for this year's Survivors Day, we want you to share a laugh with us. And we have a comedian, Blair Postman, and she is absolutely hilarious. But we invite survivors and their friends and family to join us for this celebration on Sunday, June 6th. There's information on our website where you can sign up and get all the times. But one other component I want to mention is we also want to hear your jokes. So we're having a most hilarious joke contest, and we would love for you to think about your favorite joke and enter. But it should be a lot of fun, so please do join us. And then lastly, I want to invite you to join the movement. So if you've been involved with Lung Cancer Initiative before, you've heard of our Lunge Forward events. But I'll tell you, this year's event is going to be a true movement because we're going to all be uniting in person, which is exciting, on one day, on September the 18th, in communities across North Carolina and beyond. We have events in Charlotte, the Triad, and the Triangle. We also have a new event being planned in Columbia, South Carolina, led by some community advocates there. And we actually hope to have more community-led events across the state. So if you're in your community and you want to do something, please reach out to us because we would love to have as many Lunge Forward events happening as possible on this one very important day. So stay tuned. We'll be sending out more information if you're on our mailing list about this effort. And together, there's always something we can do. And that's what this is all about, this summit. And so we're here from a lot of different communities, again, across North Carolina and beyond. You can see we have representatives from 10 states, 57 cities. I think we're over 104 people registered throughout the weekend now. And I would invite you to put in the chat where you're from if you'd like to. Please give your city a shout out. The one thing I want to call attention to is that we have 43 survivors who registered to participate in this year's summit, which is absolutely amazing and incredibly heartwarming. So just was so excited to see that number. When you filled out your registration, you told us why you were here. You told us why you advocate. And there were so many reasons. This is just a handful you see on your screen here. Personal reasons and reasons, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And we put all of your feedback into a word cloud just so you could see why you're here. And you can see there's so many themes, so many different reasons we're all here, and so many unifying reasons for why we're all here. We also asked you what survivorship means to you. And I'll say what struck me as every answer had life, living, hope, and it was just incredibly uplifting to see your definitions of survivorship. And when we put them into a word cloud, you can see again the themes that are emerging for really what this means to us and why what we're doing is so incredibly important. So we're here to build a movement. And I think we all know that there's too many people that can't speak for themselves. So that's what we're here for. And we can't make progress without research, education, and awareness. And we need everyone advocating. And that's what we hope we're going to arm you with tools to be an even better advocate in your community. So here's what we expect from you for this weekend. We would love for you to attend as many sessions as you're able, to listen and to contribute. We would really love for you to ask your questions, to put them in the chat, and then we'll have a chance to network at the end of each day. And, I invite you to please stay on for those sessions because it's a great chance to meet other advocates and just to get to know other folks in the network and respect others who may have different viewpoints. And lastly, I would say if you're on social media, use our hashtag LCI Advocacy Summit. Feel free to share what you're learning and feel free to invite others. They can register to participate tomorrow as well. So we are very, very excited about this year's summit. And I can't think of a better way to kick it off than to share with you a video all about our first topic, which is the White Ribbon Project. So I invite you all to now hear about this project.
I feel like I was completely traumatized in that moment of finding out that I had lung cancer. I remember driving to the MRI, not knowing what was going to happen after that test, and basically starting to say my goodbyes to you in the car. That I want him to be able to move forward with his life.
I think over the next several months it was, what can I do to help her? If I can't give her chemotherapy, if I can't cure her at the moment, what can I do for her? What can I do to influence and turn what has happened to us into something that perhaps is positive.
I really wanted to do more, but I didn't know how to find the community and the support networks. I didn't find them from the medical group. I thought that I would find avenues to support groups there. But then as I learned, I thought, there's all these other cancers that get all this other media attention and awareness, and what to look for skin cancer to breast cancer. I mean, everything is out there. And I couldn't really remember hearing anything about lung cancer, again, other than stop smoking. And I just felt so bad about it all. And I remember just kind of breaking down and saying to Pierre, I just wish you could make me a big white ribbon and I could put it on our front door. And I don't have to ask permission to do this. And yeah, I don't know who will see it, but I know it'll be there. And I know that I am screaming with this, saying, I have lung cancer. Someone with lung cancer lives in this house. And we took a picture of this, put it on our private Facebook page. And I just said, look, we haven't been treated well by the medical community in terms of lung cancer awareness. So here's what Pierre made for me. He put this out for me, and I love it. But you could go ahead and tie a ribbon around a mailbox or around a tree. And what I got back was, we really love what Pierre did. Could he make one for us?
I get emotional about that too, because every time we make one, I think about, okay, well, this is going to go to someone who had a similar experience to her, and the person that they love and their family has probably experienced similar emotions that I experienced. But it's also a symbol of pay it forward.
The fact that they want one is huge, because this screams, I have lung cancer, or someone I love has lung cancer. And if they want this, that means they're not ashamed of it anymore. And if they're not ashamed and they're willing to stand up and own that they have this disease, then there's no stigma attached to it.
Well, when I first received my ribbon, I was thrilled because for the first time ever, there was acknowledgement for people with lung cancer.
It just makes you proud, and it makes you happy that there's awareness more and more every day.
I had just started, not too long before that, my second clinical trial. And I was feeling pretty awful. And Heidi said, well, I'm gonna bring you your ribbon, but Pierre's gonna make you some soup. And so when we talk about love, that is true love.
I hope you feel the comfort that I'm trying to give you in this. This is a meaningful symbol, a meaningful object, and it belongs to you now. And I hope it makes you feel part of a community and a little bit better.
Research matters. So I couldn't possibly do a better introduction of Heidi than that video. Heidi and Pierre, her husband, founded the White Ribbon Project in response to the lack of general awareness about lung cancer. And they seek to encourage other lung cancer survivors and advocates to mobilize their efforts to increase awareness about lung cancer, change the public perception of the disease, and work to help improve the prevention, early detection, and treatment of lung cancer. And Heidi lives in Greenwood Village, Colorado, and she has 3 adult children who live across the country, and her son and daughter-in-law live right here in North Carolina. So it is my pleasure now to introduce you all to Heidi.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my story with you today. Being a lifelong health enthusiast, fitness trainer, health educator, and being married to a primary care physician, my family and I were just shocked when I was diagnosed with stage 3A lung cancer in October of 2018. I never had any respiratory symptoms. What I did have was a familiar twinge on my lower left side, reminding me of ovarian cysts that I've had in my life. And I thought, to be on the safe side and given my age, which was 55 at the time, that I should consult with my gynecologist. An ultrasound was performed and a 6-centimeter cyst was found. And it looked normal, but given my age, again, my doctor thought, let's just investigate this a little further to rule out anything worrisome. So I went in for a CT scan of my chest, abdomen, and pelvis, and the shock was that the ovary looked fine, but there was a mass in the upper left lobe of my lung and some plump lymph nodes in the middle of my chest. From there, I had a PET scan, which lit up the mass in my lung and the lymph nodes in the middle of my chest, and I then had to have a biopsy. I'll never forget the day that the pulmonologist called and told me over the phone that he was very sorry to tell me that I had stage 3A adenocarcinoma of the lung. Prognosis was grim, and that it would be a good idea to get my affairs in order. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. To this day, sometimes I can't believe it. But I also knew I didn't want to dwell in denial for too long because I wanted to have the best chance of survival. Upon meeting with my oncologist, though, I was given so much more hope. He had told me that there was a new immunotherapy which had been approved by the FDA just 1 month prior to my diagnosis, and that if I showed regression of the tumor, so no progression, after 3 cycles of chemo concurrently with radiation, so 30 treatments, then I would be eligible for the immunotherapy. So I did really well with chemoradiation. In fact, we would watch that tumor shrink every single week. And then I did qualify for the immunotherapy known as durvalumab, and I had infusions every other week for a year. I have been out of treatment since January of 2020. My last scan in January 2021 showed no evidence of disease, and I have a scan coming up, so hopefully I'm still there. Initially, when I was diagnosed, though, and just my head spinning and that of my family too, I just was dealing with processing the diagnosis and the treatment plan and then being treated, that I didn't really look for support outside of my family and friends. But a couple months into the immunotherapy, I really was looking for the lung cancer community. Where were other patients? Where were other survivors, other people I could look to for hope? And I really couldn't find it until I had a chance encounter with a young woman in Colorado who was in her early 30s and pregnant with her second baby when she was diagnosed with lung cancer after stage 4 lung cancer. And after meeting with her and her introducing me to other survivor advocates, I really became inspired to become part of, educating people, increasing awareness, and also getting support from them and giving support back. So from there, I learned about other advocacy organizations and become very well connected and found a good community of support. But when the pandemic hit, it was frustrating for everyone to suddenly be locked down in their homes. And last spring, we were, we have a communication board, like a private Facebook page for people with lung cancer. And we used to use that page to connect, to maybe have a social gathering once a month, go out to lunch. And now in the pandemic, we couldn't do that. So we would meet over Zoom, and we talked about what were we going to do about Lung Cancer Awareness Month. We should contact our cancer centers or community hospitals and our doctors and ask them what they plan. So this was last spring. And we weren't getting many responses, or we were getting very dismissive responses. But by the time, the summer was rolling along and we weren't making any real progress about anyone having a commitment to do anything for lung cancer awareness, I started to get really frustrated. And one day I saw an Instagram post where the university had lit up their building at night in red in September for Blood Cancer Awareness Month. And it was quite spectacular and very impressive. And I thought, wow, I wonder what they're planning on doing for Lung Cancer Awareness Month. And I asked them, I messaged them. And what I got back was just a very humiliating response that, lights in the parking lot are white and they're lit up every night, and that then, acknowledges lung cancer every day of the year. And that was the last straw for me. After months and months of being dismissed, I just cracked. And I just wish that I could just do something on my own. And my husband had taken up woodworking around the time I was diagnosed. It was a good outlet for him. And I just asked him, I just said, Pierre, I wish you could just make me a big white ribbon that I could put on our front door, and I don't have to ask for permission. I don't have to, start communications with people who are going to be disrespectful, and I can scream it from the rooftop at my own home and tie ribbons around my trees, and no one, needs to approve that. And I can educate starting at home. So my husband went into the garage. He was in there for about, an hour, and he came back with this shape of a ribbon, and it was beautiful and it was big, just like I wanted. And he told me he wasn't done yet. He was going to go to the hardware store, get some paint. And before I knew it, he painted this beautiful ribbon white, and I put it on my front door, which was red. And my daughter made me a great label that said lung cancer awareness on it. And so there was no doubt what the white ribbon meant. And I put it on the front door, took a picture of it, and I put it on that private Facebook page for lung cancer survivors in Colorado. And I said, I know we're all frustrated. We've all been feeling very, beaten down by, people that we don't even know, that are saying that nothing can be done for Lung Cancer Awareness Month, or very little. And we can, put a ribbon around a tree on our property or around a mailbox, and look what Pierre made me. And what I got back was, gosh, that's really cool. Would Pierre make one for me? So before I knew it, we started making more ribbons, leaving them on our front porch, and people in Colorado were picking them up. And then what I found, what was happening, was just quite amazing. People were taking their own pictures with the white ribbon, with their doctors at cancer centers, and putting them on their social media accounts. And I thought to myself, lung cancer has really been a disease that's been stigmatized, and, people feel very judged if they tell others that they have it. And no one looks ashamed in these pictures. I mean, they're putting them out there on social media. And before I knew it, people were asking me for them from across the country. And it was just amazing to see not only survivors standing up, but the medical community standing up with them too. And I started to think about my days as a health educator back in Los Angeles in the early 90s with the HIV/AIDS community. And talk about a stigma. That really was a stigma to try to break through. And that also was a horrible disease that basically, was the equivalent of a death sentence at the time. And I remember, patients, buddies standing up, telling their stories, humanizing these statistics. And then people who, were not considered to be susceptible to AIDS, people who had bad blood transfusions, or young children getting AIDS, that when people knew that it could happen to anyone, that people, general population, had more empathy for this. And, having the medical community stand up as well and validating, the concerns and how this could be transmitted, has now made this one of the highest funded diseases by the NIH, and is no longer a death sentence. And I thought to myself, and it is a long-term chronic illness that can be managed. Why can't this happen in lung cancer? People are standing up now. They're telling their stories. They're humanizing this. And we are making progress. So the White Ribbon Project now is in 38 states, 9 out of 10 provinces in Canada, in the Netherlands, Germany, the Philippines, and we're on the way to Ireland. Biotech industry has them as well in many of their labs across the country and in Europe. And industry is very interested in helping us spread the word that anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. So my message today is that we as a community of lung cancer survivors, caregivers, advocates, industry, medical community, cancer centers, standing together, we are the change. We have the power to change lung cancer as it is known, where it is going. There is so much hope because we can do this. It's in our power to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Heidi for sharing your story. And I know what continues to strike me is just the impact that one person can have in creating such a large movement. And so we are just very honored to have you here today, Heidi, and just appreciate you sharing that. And we also have another special guest here today, Chris Draft. And many of you probably know Chris. He has been a longtime friend to Lung Cancer Initiative, but to the lung cancer community across the world, really. And Chris is the founder, president, and CEO of the Chris Draft Family Foundation, whose mission has been to empower families to lead healthy lifestyles. He's also the co-founder of Team Draft, leading the creation of a national campaign that is changing the face of lung cancer. And we have Chris here today to talk about his partnership in the White Ribbon Project. So Chris, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Paige, for that introduction. And if it's not obvious why I'm excited about the White Ribbon Project after you heard Heidi speak in the video before it, I mean, if that doesn't just get you jazzed up and just get excited to just stand up with your white ribbon, then there's something wrong. You know, I've been extremely excited about this work, and really as I've been able to build a relationship with Heidi and Pierre, which you guys can see, you know, sitting together, is that the White Ribbon Project is really about love. I mean, it's about love. I mean, you know, Heidi said it, you can hear it in it. She took control by saying that if the cancer centers don't want to stand up, if they don't want to do it, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stand up. And she didn't apologize for that. You know, it said if what they can do at their house, they can do at their house. They can control that. And I think that's such a powerful component of the White Ribbon Project is that it says when you want to be an advocate, you can control your advocacy with your ribbon. And you know, I think if you guys seen some of the pictures, I have to reference a lady called, you know, Shirese Pompey, survivor that's out in California. And I spoke to her, you know, she was waiting to take her ribbon to Stanford where she's treated. And she was like, oh, it's going to be a couple months before I can get pictures because I got to go down to Stanford. And I spoke to her and said, you know, you don't have to wait. You can take a picture, you know, you can take a ribbon with you wherever you are. And so now if you hear her talk about her ribbon, she calls it her flat WRP. Because she takes it with her all over the place. And if she sees some flowers on the side of the road, hey, that's a good picture. If she sees some friends of hers and says, hey, let's take a picture with it. And it's just the idea that lung cancer awareness, we have to stop apologizing for the fact that we can be biased towards lung cancer awareness because it is an everyday thing, right? Now, there might be some other folks that can't accept it all the time. But for the lung cancer community, this is all the time. Right, but it doesn't have to be a grind. It doesn't have to be that. It's not like you can just beat in facts on people. But what you got to do is just let them know that it's real, that it matters. And so by having a ribbon, it says you get to control the time that you want to, right? You get to control when you want to do awareness. Heidi didn't have to wait for CU, didn't have to wait for Kaiser to come around. They are coming around now, right? They are. But she didn't have to wait for them to come around. You know, just like everybody else, we're in a pandemic and, oh, you can't go outside. Well, you know what? You can still take pictures, right? And so it didn't stop lung cancer. It didn't stop it. The same way as the pandemic did not stop people from getting lung cancer. So we can't allow it to stop lung cancer awareness. And so the other part, so it was made with love. It's, you know, Heidi has given it with love and it allows people to take control. And with that control, it allows you to stand up wherever you are, but then also be able to build a community of people. Because that ribbon is big. You know, Heidi didn't say, Pierre, make me a small ribbon that I can put in my pocket. She said, make me a big ribbon that I can put on the door. And I've loved the size of the ribbon because if you take it out with you, if you're walking outside with you, it's not like you can hide it. Somebody's looking at it and they're saying, what is that you're carrying? Why do you have this big A white ribbon? Why do you have it? And it's like, funny you should ask. Let me tell you about why I have this big white ribbon. And so it's a conversation starter. It makes people want to ask, and they're not, and it makes it where they ask you about the ribbon, and it's not like, well, did you smoke? Because their first thing they're asking is, why do you have a ribbon? And so it gives us the ability to control the conversation. It challenges, it gives us the ability to start the conversation and control the conversation. But even before that, you have to make a choice when you go out of the house. Am I going to carry this ribbon with me? Am I going to go out there and start some good trouble, as John Lewis would talk about, and go start some conversations about lung cancer? And if you make up your mind and you take this big ribbon, because you're not going to be able to hide it, it's not going to go in a backpack, it's too big, right? I've put it in a bag. Heidi's giving me some bags to take some ribbons around. It sticks outside the bag. So even when I'm walking on, I've been on a plane and everybody has to see a big ribbon, right? And because they do, there's the opportunity for them to ask about it, right? And so that's so important because we need to own our story and recognize that the awareness of lung cancer comes back to what the lung cancer community is willing to share. And when I say the lung cancer community is not just survivors. The lung cancer community are not just caregivers, right? And when I say survivors, I'm not saying not just never smokers, not just former smokers, not just current smokers, all of the survivors, not just stage 1, not just stage 3, not just stage 4, not just stage 2, all of our survivors, not just caregivers that are with somebody, not just someone that lost somebody, not somebody that's here, all of, but not just that group. Because we need our lung teams. I see Chad Pico on here. We have Jennifer Garce on here. We need our lung teams because we are a team in advocacy. We're together. So we need all of our med-oncs, our rad-oncs. If you guys see Pierre, he's not just this amazing caregiver with Heidi. He's a primary care doc. We need primary care docs. We need social workers. We need nurses. We need to appreciate our advocacy groups like with Paige and Jenny and all the rest of the folks from the Lung Cancer Initiative of North Carolina and all the rest of the groups of people that are fighting. We need to bring in our neighbors. We need to bring in our news people. We need to bring in all the people that care and recognize that right now, the limiting factor in getting people on our team has been us as a community. So if we reach out and we make it a priority, knowing that the only way that we can raise awareness is doing it together, then things will change. We've got to do it together. And so there's a video that we're about to show, and it's from Colorado. It's from Heidi and Pierre's house. And we invited the CU lung teams, the Kaiser, Colorado, Kaiser lung teams. And there's a lot of people that are probably saying, do you think the doctors would show up and be a part of a bill? And, can we actually get it together without realizing that these doctors didn't randomly choose being doctors and fighting for you? This is their mission. This is their life, their commitment. So if they can change this space, that's why they're here. We are in this together. So this video will show you just a little bit about what's going to happen as we continue to move forward, that you're not going to just see Heidi and Pierre making ribbons. You've seen that change. You're going to see doctors and survivors together making ribbons. And you're going to see that not just in Denver, you're seeing it in North Carolina, you're seeing it in Philadelphia, you're going to see it all over. If you're watching Facebook, it's happening in the Netherlands right now. There's a big movement. But you're going to see communities standing up and knowing. And if we want to be a stronger team, then we've got to do the work. We've got to do the team building work. We've got to do the relationship work of getting to know each other and recognizing that everybody's important, but everybody is not the same. So appreciate everybody's positions and be able to move forward. So where's that video? Let everybody see.
one of the most powerful things that I've experienced, just, having my hand on this original ribbon, and it's an emotional chord that I haven't felt in a long, long time.
I would say today is a moment in history to have a thoracic lung team come to my house and literally roll up their sleeves, make ribbons for survivors and caregivers and other cancer centers across the country, standing up and advocating with survivors, people suffering with lung cancer, to help us spread general awareness that no one deserves lung cancer and anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. You're not alone. There is a huge community here.
Cookie. Beautiful. Yeah, you guys gotta get right there to go.
Well, it feels amazing. I think it's I think like all the medical oncologists in the world, we're a small part of the overall fight against lung cancer, and we do our best. And this will be the first of many ribbons that medical oncologists trace. So it's an honor to be a part of that, and it's exciting where the real work is going to go in and move things forward.
I think it's a ribbon of hope. I think when I saw Heidi, now I think it's been almost 3 years ago, her world was turned upside down. She was totally fit, non-smoker, and diagnosed with a stage 3 locally advanced lung cancer, which can really knock the wind out of someone. And I was with her as her radiation oncologist, and for us, I think the thing that gave us the most hope throughout it was I literally watched her tumor shrink over the course of treatment, which we don't always get to see happen. When Heidi brought these to our department in the spring, I think the patients who had lung cancer in the department took some solace in that. Okay.
I've taken to thinking about where these might go. Whether it's to someone who's been recently diagnosed and what it might feel to them, or how it might feel to them to know that other people are thinking about them and supporting them in ways that are really profound. I know Heidi and Pierre have said that, each one of these is made with love, but it just means something to know that this will be in the hands of somebody who is dedicated, part of the lung cancer community, help them feel more engaged and supported and energized to sustain what they're working through. So that's kind of profound feeling to be able to sit here and know that this is going to have an impact.
These are going to go all around the country, and I think hopefully they're going to inspire people and make people pay attention and say, hey, there's stuff going on, and this is a hidden epidemic, so we need to get it out in the open.
For me, it was, as a caretaker, the irony is, right, I'm a doctor, but I can't do anything for her, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, yeah, I want to make one for you, and it started like that, and she started posting some, and then people started to ask for them more and more, and then they were bringing them to their doctors, and they said, yeah, sure.
We're all human beings. Cancer is something that afflicts us all. It doesn't know boundaries from patient to doctor to nurses. Any one of us can be affected by it, and all of our families have been once you get to a certain age. And this is a human problem. It's not just a patient versus doctor dichotomy. So yeah, this is about caring for people.
I think it's really inspirational. It's just very cool to see all these people coming out on such a beautiful day, and so many people here, have been touched by lung cancer in some way, and the impact and awareness that it's bringing is really inspirational and hopeful.
I'm ecstatic. The whole goal was to try to partner with clinicians and researchers, caregivers, just the diverse community of people that's touched by lung cancer, and do something make ribbons that we can send off to other cancer centers, other survivors, and other caregivers. And we made, I think, close to 75 ribbons today, cut, painted, sanded, many of them signed by world-renowned clinicians. I think it was a great day.
The White Ribbon Project.
Chris, thank you so much for your inspirational words and for sharing that video. That was absolutely amazing. And I see that we have Heidi and Pierre here with us. Heidi and Pierre, would you like to add anything to our program?
We are honored to be here today. I didn't think I'd be able to. That's why we did the recording. We're actually in Sioux Falls, South Dakota right now. My daughter's about to graduate with a master's degree in genetic counseling. So we're really excited about that. And we also brought some ribbons with us to see if we can get some to people here in South Dakota. And so an update is, if I am able to get a ribbon to somebody here, we will now be in 40 states. What else? My scans were clear, so I continue to be NED today. Next scan in 6 months. So research matters, people. It really does, and we all know that here. And we just need to make sure that our voices are heard, so we can keep on going and have quality lives. And what else? Something else I wanted to say, watching this community come together and seeing the work that LCI is doing, this should be a model all over the globe. There was nothing in Colorado. I was spinning my wheels for 10 months until I found the community, and that shouldn't happen to people. No one should ever feel alone. And I am just so touched and impressed by what you are doing here in North Carolina. Really, you are meeting people where they are. You're getting people connected immediately, and that is so important. Other things on my list, little bit of just a little thing that I thought was interesting is my doctor, Dr. Kono, who was in there, was actually Lakeisha's, Chris's wife's oncologist. So we've kind of come like, how did we meet? How did this all come together? So, and Pierre, do you have any comments?
I just want to thank everyone for the work that you're doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I mean, your story is so inspiring, and I think it gives us all a tangible thing that we can do. I mean, it's just such a great way that we can all stand up as advocates, and thank you just so much for sharing your journey. And I'm sure we may have some questions from our participants. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen and see if we've had any submitted. And if you have one and you haven't submitted it, please send it through to Colleen.
Yeah, thank you, Paige. I have received one question. So anyone else who has any questions, I encourage you to submit them in the chat. But someone asked how they can get involved with the White Ribbon Project and how they might be able to receive a white ribbon. First, the white ribbons are free. You do not need to purchase them. But also, we recently had a White Ribbon Project build right here in North Carolina, led by Lauren Machos, who's a wonderful lung cancer advocate that lives in Apex. And so we actually have I don't even know, at least 50 white ribbons on hand right now that we're ready to share with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and share, there's a Survey Monkey in the chat with everyone right now, where if you're interested in receiving one, wherever you are, fill out the survey, let us know, and then we can reach out and connect with you and figure out a way to get a white ribbon to you, because we want as many people to be involved as want to be involved. So I'll open it up. If anyone has a question and you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask Heidi and Pierre or Chris, I encourage you to do that now.
I see a question from Dr. Payco.
I can ask it if there's not.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to give other people a chance to jump in, but I won't be able to stay on long. But I mean, I'm really inspired. I'm a lung cancer provider and I'm also a researcher. Super inspired by you guys. I mean, I can't convey it more than to say that. I mean, I got on Twitter for a completely different reason. I tried to avoid it for the last 10 years and got on there in June of last year for a fundraiser. And it didn't do much in terms of fundraising. But then I got stuck seeing all my colleagues who've been on there for 10 years and got 20,000 followers. And I just got sucked in. But what really, that's how I learned about White Ribbon, was social media and seeing how much you're doing, Heidi. Very inspiring, very cool. My question is now I am on Twitter. I see a lot of advocacy in lung cancer on there. I do feel like one thing that might be missing is what kind of engagement on there do you think is missing from lung cancer providers? And this is not meant to be a rhetorical question, but what I'm wondering is there an interest in there being more education, more like educational threads, or what kind of things are patients and advocates looking for from providers that might be a nice engagement opportunity internationally?
Thanks for your question. Well, I know that many of the advocates, and including patients themselves, are interested in the latest research. And so some of the providers are publishing work that they're involved in trials. I'm not saying that's the only thing that can be used for, but I don't know if you know Dr. Drew Moganaki at UCLA. He heads their thoracic oncology department. So I'll look at it, and he's pointed me to some recent articles. I certainly look at those, but there's also opportunities for primary care physicians too. I mean, for me, lung cancer screening is at the best centers, 30%, and we've had the guidelines out now for how long? I think primary care physicians are very motivated by subject matter experts. And if you can get out there and sort of say, look, here are the screening rates for lung cancer, and what are they for breast cancer now? Over 90%. So it's really inexcusable, I think, for as a public health matter, that screening rates are so low. So I think that's another opportunity, is to encourage primary care physicians that, look, lung cancer is treatable. And there is a screening test now, which just has been expanded now, as you all know. Yes. So for now, for the eligible population, it's probably much worse now, the screening rate. So anything you can do, but just be active on it. Post, people will read it. We'll share and retweet your posts. That's the goal, is to connect people with experts in their field and in their local areas.
Yeah, and the posts are really important too, because everyone's going to have their own comfort level with advocacy, and maybe you want to physically get to the hospitals and get the ribbons in the hands of the cancer centers and so forth. But what if you're sick? What if you're going through treatment? You can press the share button on social media if someone posts something. This has been incredibly successful. Our own cancer center was still kind of resistant to a lot of, the efforts that we were making. And then we started showing social media posts that other hospitals around the country were making and tagging our own. And now they're coming around. I actually finally got an inbox on my Twitter. Could we share the pictures that you put up of our doctor's building, from our cancer center? Because they didn't want to come out and be part of it, but now they want to jump on board.
Yep. So Chad, the other side is that, if you can look at the white ribbon is kind of a stamp on whoever gets it. And what we want to do is encourage people to talk about who they are and what they're doing behind it. So hopefully if somebody is a researcher, they would have a white ribbon and they would share about the research that they're doing, right? And then because you're part of a group, that people will learn more about it. And it's not going to just be in a couple of days as a conference, but really recognize that we want people to be kind of constant learners, right? So how can we make sure people know that things are happening all the time? And because of this kind of unifying ribbon, it allows you to be able to appreciate that things are happening all over, not just all over the country, but literally right now, as we're here in the Netherlands, we have a guy, Niels, that is just doing an amazing job with the white ribbon. So we are connected, but we need to be able to visibly see that. So I guess to say is that as a researcher, we want to know the work that you're doing at UNC, but we also need to know, Jennifer, we want to know the work that you're doing at Duke, and we want to know the work that's happening at Wake Forest, and we want to know the work that's happening at all the different places, at Levine. We want to make sure people know about all the resources that are with LCI here. And again, we don't want any resource to be left on the table because people aren't aware of it.
Great.
I'd
Thank
also
you all.
love to add that if you do send out an academic article, if you could maybe like summarize like 3 points in plain, common, non medical lingo, it would be really, really helpful because everybody has different health literacy. And I know when I was first diagnosed that it was extremely overwhelming as somebody who didn't have a background in healthcare. And when I started to do research, it was a lot of medical jargon that sometimes felt like I was reading in a foreign language. And so just sometimes a high level, quick, like these are 3 awesome things that I took from this academic article, click here to read more, is super helpful because it breaks it down in a language in which everyone can understand.
Taylor, what a great comment that you just made. You know, it's about audience. So a lot of times we say we need more awareness. What kind of awareness? I mean, if we want awareness to the public, I mean, you think of a breast cancer campaign. How many times have you heard in a breast cancer commercial, they actually talk about the amount of people diagnosed? How often they really talk about numbers in a breast cancer campaign? How many times have you heard them talk about drugs in a breast cancer campaign? I mean, we got commercials now to do it, but how many times? They don't, right? So recognizing the different audiences. So what what other oncologists need to know is totally different than what Pierre as a primary care doc will need to know, which is different than what health providers will need to know, what survivors and advocates need to know. So I think it's a great point that just says that we need to meet people where they are. That's so much of what the ribbon is too, is meeting people where they are and then making sure that we adjust to that.
The other thing that's really important is as advocates, and we try to engage our cancer centers and reach out to marketing and media, it's very difficult. We're very much, like I was saying in the video, dismissed. But when a doctor advocates to the marketing department and the media department, we have a much better chance of being recognized. And I just felt as time was going by, and again, it took me 10 months to find the community. When the cancer centers are quiet, to me, it felt like it's adding to the stigma. They're doing all these incredible things, but they're not talking about it. And I mean, it's amazing what's happened in the past few years in treatment. And the pulmonologist who gave me the prognosis was clueless about that there was hope for me. And I still, even to this day, and I'm doing well, that's the first thing that hits me is that, you know what? I could be gone in like a couple of weeks. I mean, it could just happen because it was so traumatic hearing that. So, education and also having the doctors help advocate that, yeah, Cancer Center Director, we want to have a bigger presence on social media or Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Let's do something, let's have those white ribbons out there and have them prominent. And that is one thing I've noticed from people when I send them things. I mean, the ribbons are free. And I always send a thank you note with this free ribbon to people because I'm thanking them for their advocacy, for wanting to tell their stories and show that there's nothing to be ashamed of here. Nothing.
Thank you, Heidi. This has just been a great discussion, and I think there's more questions and more ideas coming up, and I hope that we can use the time in the breakout sessions to further the conversation. The other thing I want to mention is Lauren Machos, who Colleen mentioned. She can't join us today, but she did lead a build, and she is an available resource to you if you're interested in doing a build. She's very excited to show others how to do this, and we're going to end our session today with just some photos of some of the more recent ribbons that have been given out across North Carolina from the build that Lauren did. And kudos to Tama Hargraves for some of the ribbons that she has also been delivering around North Carolina as well. Thank you again, Heidi, Pierre, and Chris. We really enjoyed today's discussion. Thank you. we hope to have many, many more photos to share moving forward. And as Colleen said, reach out to us. We would love to coordinate getting a ribbon to you. Thank you again, Chris, Heidi, and Pierre.